Back here on Good Morning Football, breaking news from the NFL Network newsroom. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reporting and confirmed and announced by the Arizona Cardinals that they have parted ways with offensive coordinator Mike McCoy. This coming on the heels hours after the loss on Thursday Night Football to the Denver Broncos, 45-10, in which rookie quarterback Josh Rosen had multiple interceptions returned for touchdowns. After the game, Steve Wilks said it will be premature to consider any coaching changes. Those coaching changes have been made. Mike McCoy out as the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's bring in our GM, Charlie Casserly, as well as the man who broke the news this morning, our Tom Pelissero. Tom, we'll start with you. What changed from premature to Mike McCoy being out the door?
Well, rarely are coaching decisions made minutes after a game ends, but the writing was on the wall even going into last night that Mike McCoy's job status was extremely tenuous. You just look at the numbers. The Cardinals were last or next to last in a lot of key categories, including scoring, including yards per play, yards per game, big plays. David Johnson, their running back, who they just paid, the focal point of the offense, averaging just over 3 yards per carry, only has 20 catches so far through 7 games. They needed to try to inject some kind of life, particularly after the way things went last night against the Broncos. So they will turn to their quarterbacks coach, Byron Leftwich, who we've heard positive things on in recent years, somebody who was groomed under Bruce Arians, has a close relationship with Josh Rosen. We'll see if Leftwich can come up with some things in his first NFL play calling opportunity to get the Cardinals going.
And Charlie, everybody could see the offense wasn't having success. There was probably a 5-minute segment during the game where the broadcast was discussing McCoy's eventual ouster. When you're watching the team, did you make did you come to that conclusion, Charlie, that it had to be McCoy, he had to be out?
Well, we talked about it on Tuesday that Steve Wilks came out and said, well, everybody's job's on the line. Well, okay. He says, you're the head coach. The defensive coordinator you brought with you from Carolina, it's process of elimination. The offense is playing bad. To me, it singled Mike McCoy when he made that statement. And obviously the offense didn't play well last night. Now, I think there's a couple things to think about here. A year ago, McCoy lost his job in Denver because they didn't feel that the young quarterbacks were coming along quick enough. The offense was too complicated. It needed to be simplified. You now have a young quarterback. Is there a parallel between these two situations? I don't know. But it does seem to be interesting that the new quarterback in both spots is the guy that is, and we'll say, cost him his job in the sense that we're going to go with a younger quarterback. We want him developed. Denver didn't do it. Maybe that's what they're thinking in Arizona. I think the other thing is his history has been to have great success with veteran quarterbacks and not necessarily success with younger quarterbacks, as possibly evidence in Denver. So I think that's something that could play into this. When I watch him, Bruce Arians come out and said David Johnson's being misused. He needs to be able to throw him the ball. He threw that a couple weeks ago. Line up as a wide receiver. The thing that was frustrating last night in the parts I watched the game, Von Miller, we said on Tuesday, you got to double this guy. Hey, you don't have any tackles that can block him. You got to put a game plan on him. Take your shot against Block and Chubb.
And Tom, let's go back to one thing that Charlie mentioned. We saw Mike McCoy out after Week 11 in Denver last year. Rookie quarterbacks versus veteran quarterbacks. Was McCoy on the same page as Steve Wilks with the decision to send Josh Rosen in at this point in the season?
Well, once again, it's difficult to say exactly what voices were involved in that decision, though those discussions would take place. If you're talking about a franchise quarterback that they hope that Josh Rosen can become, you don't make that decision willy-nilly. You need to have everybody on the same page. I would go back to what he was working with in Denver, and let's not forget, those young quarterbacks that Mike McCoy had in Denver are not there anymore. It was Paxton Lynch. It was Trevor Siemian. They've moved on from them. They went out and got a veteran quarterback in Case Keenum. It's not as if the Cardinals early on with Sam Bradford were doing anything offensively to suggest that things were going to get better. So they tried to put Josh Rosen into that situation. There were some things last night, and Charlie could certainly speak to this, a receiver cutting off a route on one of those pick sixes. That's not necessarily on the coaching staff. There's other things that the Cardinals have to do well. The thing is, right now, they are not doing anything well offensively, and so they're seeking any type of an opportunity to give themselves a bit of a boost here.
And looking at that boost, Charlie, have you seen anything from Rosen and the way he's started off his NFL career that could lead you to think that this is something that could continue, or is there still some positivity to draw from what Josh Rosen has dealt with early on this season?
Well, let's throw out last night. When I've watched Rosen this year and going back to preseason, I like what I saw. The guy has got the physical ability to throw the ball. He can read defenses. He can stand in the pocket. He can make all the throws. He can slide in the pocket. I've seen a lot of positives from him. There's something to build on him. His issue was personality. People had questions about that. That's why he dropped a little bit in the draft. But most people said he was the most pro-ready quarterback coming out of the draft, and I saw a lot of those positives when I've watched him in preseason and somewhat when he's played, at least in his debut when he played in the regular season.
Tom, what does Byron Leftwich need to do? What will the changes be? What kind of changes do they want to see in Arizona as far as this offense?
Well, you can bet that one thing that everybody there is going to want to see is find a way to get David Johnson involved, not just running the football between the tackles, but yes, getting him out on the perimeter, using him as a pass catcher. This guy had 80 catches a couple of years ago before he ended up having his injury last season. He really has not been used a lot in that phase. He is your best mismatch weapon. I know they've got some young receivers, Christian Kirk, that they like a lot. Of course, you've got the stalwart Larry Fitzgerald. It's not as if they feel in Arizona that they are totally bereft of weapons, but they have not yet been able to leverage those weapons. Charlie talked about Josh Rosen. Another thing that scouts talked about when they looked at Josh Rosen before the draft was he was more so than the other top quarterbacks in this class a pocket passer. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have functional mobility, the ability to slide up and around in the pocket, to have that natural feel, but he's not going to extend plays a lot. You're not going to run a ton of bootlegs with Josh Rosen. He's going to do a lot of his damage from the pocket. Well, in order to do that, you need to create a pocket for Josh Rosen. Last night against Von Miller, Bradley Chubb and company, they were not able to do that. You saw how the pressure continued to affect him throughout the game. So shoring up the protection schemes is going to be a part of this too. And remember, Byron Leftwich, one reason that Josh Rosen, the people around him, were really excited about having him with Leftwich is Leftwich has been in Josh Rosen's shoes. He has been a top 10 pick in the draft. He's been a young quarterback going through some of those travails. Let's see if those two guys, just in terms of spending all that time together, can be on the same page for how Josh Rosen can play better.
So that's the future looking ahead for Josh Rosen. Charlie, 1-5 at this point, 1-6. The Cardinals not having a lot of success. So what do they need? If we can already look ahead to the 2019 NFL Draft, what is the position, whether it's the draft or free agency, that the Cardinals need to improve things?
Well, one thing we should add with time, that offensive line's banged up, so I'm not sure anybody has a chance right now. They need a number one receiver. I mean, Fitzy's at the end here. Kirk's more of a slot guy, I think. So, it starts there with a number one receiver on offense. I think somewhere in that offensive line, you're going to have to rebuild part of that because that thing is not going like they thought it would be. And I'd start with, certainly your offensive tackle positions. On defense, they've been looking for a corner opposite Peterson forever. Let's get one.
Rumors of Peterson on the trading block shot down, but they were also shooting down rumors of firing the offensive coordinator. That has changed thus far. Mike McCoy out thanks to Charlie Casserly and Tom Pelissero, who broke the news here this morning on NFL Network. If you're just joining us, that's it. Mike McCoy fired by the Arizona Cardinals. They made the announcement this morning. 45-10 loss to the Denver Broncos on Thursday Night Football.